be discussing about the customs and traditions, as customs weaves the fabric of the society, where tradition whisper tales of generation past. We will delve into the heart of culture and discovering the rhythms of life that resonates through time. So, to start the interview, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Kauthar, and I'm a first-year student in Media and Communication here in UOWD, and I'm from Egypt. Yeah.
To be a little brief, so can you tell like a story about your childhood that explains, a little bit about your country?
A story about my childhood.
I like about
my country. I didn't really grow up in Egypt. I grew up here in the UAE. So I'm not really sure if I have any stories
that
I had growing up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fine. But like, okay, so we and everything. Have you heard like a lot of stories from your culture? Like, your family told you about any story that kind of like resonates from your culture?
Honestly, it's not necessarily about the culture. It could be like the relationship of the people in Egypt with each other. So when my parents were growing up in Egypt, they basically grew up in the same town, same city of some sorts, and everybody knew everybody there. And so you could say that they grew up in a quite a friendly place, honestly, because everybody knew everybody, everybody spoke with everybody. It's like you would walk down the road and you'd greet every single person that you come across because you knew everybody. So everybody was connected in a way compared to how it is now. Now, because for them, the age of technology wasn't that advanced yet. So they had more physical interactions with each other, but compared to now, I don't think that's the case anymore. Yeah, everybody is just reserved to themselves compared to the past. So yeah.
Yeah, I can understand. I want to know like more about how you think. So I want to ask you, what's your definition of culture? How you view culture as, or how you define culture?
I would define culture as like a sense of community you have with the people around you and your place of origin. So culture would, for me, how I would interact with people from Egypt. Usually people interact together like quite friendly, quite friendly with each other. And they also come across as polite. So that's something that relates to how people back in Egypt interact with each other. It's quite friendly. It's also about unity of our prides, how we're beyond prideful of our country's history and how we've come together to like overcome like all sorts of adversities and like developing our country together. And basically we like our own people and we like what we've overcome with together. So that's basically what I think of as a culture. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. Is it something that you strongly identify with or you can associate yourself with?
Honestly, yeah. I really do like how people interact with each other in Egypt, especially the citizens. And even more citizens with the tourists that are coming in. The people in Egypt really love meeting people coming from the outside and just knowing more about them and interacting with them. And I too am quite prideful of our country's rich history and community. Just like so, I feel like I think alike like them, so that makes me fit in with the culture.
That's so great. Lame question, my son, but when as English might be your second language, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you meet people like from belonging from your culture, are you gonna like speak to them in English habitually, or you will try to talk to them in your own language?
Well, it depends. If I'm talking to someone back in Egypt, of course I have to talk to them in Arabic because people there don't really they can understand English, but English is not Egypt's second language. It's actually French.
Oh,
I think
really?
English is Egypt's third language.
Wow. Okay.
So, because Egypt is overall an Arabic country, nobody speaks anything other than Arabic there. But if I were to speak with an Egyptian person here in the UAE, I'd rather speak to them in English because I'm more comfortable with English than Arabic. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I want to know more about your tradition. So can you kind of like give me a brief introduction, if you can, about any traditional arts and crafts? You know, the significance it holds in your culture, if you know any.
Yeah. The thing with Egypt is we don't really have much traditions. Like we're quite an open country. Like we literally just go with the flow with everything. But if I had to give you something, it would most probably be Eid and Ramadan celebrations. How we usually decorate the streets with lots of paper decorations from alley to alley, building to building, lighting up the streets with lights, with lanterns that like would shine bright at night and would make like a really beautiful scenery as people like walk through them. We would usually design the inside of our houses like that so that we could replicate that beauty from the outside inside our own houses. That's during Ramadan and Eid. And in Eid, and actually in both of them as well, we love to cook majorly home cooked foods. Foods that require lots of time and effort, but also lots of love and compassion in it. Because it's a time where our family comes together and basically enjoy every second of the day with each other and each other's company. Yeah.
That sounds so great, beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
So, as you talked about food too, so I would like to ask you a question about food. Can you name some like tradition foods or dishes that is associated with all these important events?
Sure, we have something called macarona bechamel, which is basically the Arabic translation of pasta with bechamel, which has like bechamel sauce on top of pasta, on top of meat with sometimes red sauce in it.
Oh,
Another one would be I don't know. Wait, what's its name? Okay, this other dish I don't know the name of. Let's leave that aside. Okay. We usually have ainab, which means grape leaves, like rice wrapped grape leaves, which we usually cook with pomegranate syrup or red sauce. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a savory or a sweet dish.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, okay. That sounds really interesting. I wish I can taste it once.
You should. You should.
And being here, were you able to participate like in these kind of like culture festival celebration?
For sure. Like I said, even though we aren't in Egypt, we still do celebrate these kind of stuff here in the UAE. And I think it's even more special because the Egyptians that are here provide all the ingredients and all the decorations that we usually would buy and decorate with back in Egypt here in Dubai and Sharjah, which like makes it as if there's no difference in the place. Like we're here in Egypt in our own houses celebrating the same way we would back home.
Yeah, like as it's like a global area, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like overall, it was a good. It's a kind of like a good thing, right? So how you
Yeah, it
feel
is.
about it? It's a good feeling or like really something?
It's really nice because it's in a way making us feel connected with where we are from, even though I grew up in a completely different place and separated from where my parents grew up all their lives.
Yeah, truly, that's true. So, as I talked about globalization, how do you think globalization has impacted the tradition and the customs and the practices in your culture?
Um, do you mean the culture in Egypt or the culture in my household?
Um, and as in like overall tradition, how do you feel like kind of like a negative impact, even that you can talk about, or like positive impacts overall on everything that relate to, you can kind of like talk about.
Honestly, I don't think it impacted it that much. Like I said, Egypt is a country that doesn't really have much traditions. We're literally all just free birds flying in the sky, just going with the flow. Yeah. So besides Ramadan and Eid, which is like a necessary event that you all celebrate together and enjoy,
Yeah.
I don't think it really did have any effect on our culture and traditions because it's quite limited to begin with. Like it's quite diverse in a way.
Okay. So I also want to talk about the media side of it. So is there any like media post or media that you listen from your country, like Egypt?
I don't really like consuming Arabic media in general, not just
Oh, okay.
Egyptian media, because, like I said, I grew up in a different country, and
Yeah.
here in the UAE, I grew up mostly around English and English media. So
Yeah.
I'm not really that much interested in any kind of media relating in Arabic. So no matter if it's music or TV series or movies. But I do occasionally watch Arabic movies with my parents because that's what they love to watch.
Yeah.
And so I have to compromise sometimes. I watch with them Arabic movies, they watch with me English movies. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, but sometimes they're fun. I can understand. Right?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's fun.
So is there something you want to convey to other people? Like
Like,
convey in a sense that you want like, oh, I wish this is something that other people from other culture should know about mine too, from my traditions.
mm,
Kind of like thing that is not like mainstream, but still you feel good about it.
okay, so you want a positive thing. Okay. I don't know. I think I would say I know Egypt is quite famous for the heavily main tourist attractions like the pyramids or the Sphinx or maybe the museum if some people consider it. But Egypt does have lots of other pretty cities and towns, each with their own unique, like beautiful sceneries and stores and life and people. So if people could travel away from the capital and move into these smaller cities, they would be pleasantly surprised with how kind people would be towards tourists and foreigners like them. Some would even like give them free stuff or like give them sales on stuff just because they genuinely are happy to see people from the outside.
Oh, oh, okay. That sounds great.
Yeah.
To conclude this interview, do you think that young people today have a sense of culture? That do people like nowadays, the generation, do relate to the culture or like they strongly want to embrace the culture?
Um, I'd have to say it depends. Yes, it depends. So for a person like me who grew up in between many different cultures,
Yeah.
in a way, all these different cultures is my own culture because I grew up with them, between them. So I wouldn't say obviously I do want to connect with my own culture, but it isn't only my own. It's not only. So what I'm trying to say is, although Egypt is my home country and my main culture, it technically isn't my main culture because I grew up in between other cultures as well, like English here in the UAE. And all my friends were mainly from Asia, East Asia. So I grew up amongst their cultures as well. So Egypt isn't necessarily my main culture. So I don't really feel the need or the compelling need to like strongly connect with it the way my parents are, because I'm part of many other cultures and I consider that to be fine. So for people who are like me, I don't really think that's the case.
But it surely is not a negative thing because we respect, our culture. That's the most important part.
Yes, for sure.
Respecting culture and, being really considerate about other person and other cultures. I think so. That's the most important and essential thing nowadays.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for cooperating with me today. I know
Thank you for having me.
Oh no, it's my pleasure.